I want Hilary Swank in the next Terminator movie so bad.
There is nothing in this world that you give me to do to hug a robot.
It's because it's so incredible and intricate that it's impossible not to notice.
Music's the core of this movie.
I was born again to watch this movie.
You'll find redeeming things and you'll be thinking about it for a long time afterwards.
There was no bone saw.
Just John hamming it up over here.
2.5 out of 3 of us recommend it.
Everybody loves talking about movies. Let's talk about movies. Here we go. And here we go. Wrong Joker, sorry.
Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to the Pause Rewind Play podcast tonight. You just heard 2 impressions of Heath Ledger's Joker. I think that's the right one. I don't know. But anyhow, we're going to kick it off really nicely. We got the standard cast here tonight with me, Casey, and we got over here.
Hey, this is Vince.
Hello.
I am here again.
Hello, Vince. Welcome back again.
Thank you.
Glad to have you back.
I'm glad to be here.
Except you're wearing like 2 jackets now.
I shed one of them. I'm down to 1 jacket now. It's fall going into winter. It's getting cold, so the jacket, the hoodie is going to be a consistent fashion statement for me here for the next little while.
I like it. And to my right we have
Josh, is it just me or is it getting crazier out there, guys?
a little bit with the weather.
Yep.
Supposed to freeze tonight and snow.
Oh yeah, tomorrow's supposed to be like crazy cold.
Pretty bummed. And then we have a special guest. Josh, introduce our guest tonight.
Tonight we've got Cade with us. How's it going, Cade?
Good. Thanks so much for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. I've been listening actually for a long time. I feel like a lot of people say that when they come on, but I actually have. I appreciate the
Long-time
episode.
listener, first-time interviewer.
Recorder? Yeah.
Recorder, audio, person, guest. Yes, so Cade is our special guest tonight. He works with Vince and also me now that I started working there. We're super excited to have him here. We've talked a lot about movies and The Office and all this stuff because I sit right next to him. We talk to him all the time. And when he said that he was going to see Joker, we're like, all right, let's do this. We got to bring him on. So we're super pumped to have him.
So call out to anyone else who we work with. It is possible to make the trip down here to do it. Cade has proven it, broken the wall. Now you are all committed.
The bubble has been burst. No, we're super glad to have you, and it's exciting to bring in guests. I think that it brings a little bit of a different flavor into what we got going on here. So thanks so much for being here. Well, guys, we kind of want to get started and talk a little bit about the week in movies, kind of what we've been watching and what we've been seeing. I'm going to start really easy. I watched a lot of Vikings on History.
Ooh, how far are you now in there?
I'm just finishing season 2 right now.
Season 2? Okay.
Yeah, so I'm having a good time. I've already watched the whole series up to season 4. So
Well, they've got some teasers dropping online now, don't they?
Season 6.
Some posters dropping. Mm-hmm. Ragnar's kid's bald now.
Oh man,
that's all I know.
Bjorn. It's gonna be an
He
elected
loses his
king.
hair.
Hairless Bjorn. Ironsides.
Yeah, Bjorn.
It's gonna be great. I'm pretty excited about it though. What about you, Vince? What have you been watching?
I watched one movie this week. It was Into the Spider-Verse, and it's just as good the second viewing as it is the first viewing, if not better. I absolutely loved the movie. My wife walked in during one of the big Kingpin scenes and just lost it laughing so hard. She thought that the character design for the Kingpin was so funny, and it made it that much better for me. Like, just seeing her enjoy this ridiculous giant man was so much fun to me. And that's it. That's really it. We started watching Breaking Bad again.
Ooh.
A+. Getting ready for that new movie coming out this weekend.
Wait, The Camino? Is that what it's called?
El Camino.
Oh, Camino. Yeah, that's
Cade knows about it. He's been pumped for it like the whole time.
Yeah, he stole mine. I've been gearing up on Breaking Bad, getting ready for El Camino on Friday, the 11th. It's going to be sick.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think that Vince Gilligan himself came out and said that there were going to be like 12 characters from the series that are going to be featured within the movie. So I think it's just going to be not only like a sequel, but a good bring back to everything. So it'll be nice.
Nice. I only made it to... How many seasons are there of Breaking Bad? There's like 5 or 6. Yeah.
You never finished it?
I never finished it.
We'll go back and finish it.
I just need to start over.
Yeah,
It's been
do
long
that.
enough now.
That's true.
Got to ride around in an RV and make that blue good.
There's a few shows that are like must watches. Breaking Bad is like probably the top of that list. It's up there. Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones, The Dark Crystal, all those really important shows.
Yeah. Stargate SG-1.
Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones.
See, I said that. It just blank stares. Josh, what'd you watch this week?
Nothing. Honestly, nothing besides Joker, because I went and saw Joker twice. But besides that, I've just been doing schoolwork and working. And
Watching sports.
oh yeah, it's true. I did watch football.
How's your team?
4-0. Thank you very much. Go Niners. So that's good. I will say, like, just a quick little shout out to some pretty sweet new movies that I saw the trailer for when I went to see Joker. There is, of course, the first teaser has dropped. It's been out for a little while for Tenet, which is Christopher Nolan's next movie coming out July of next year.
They had a trailer in your showing?
Not a trailer, it's just a little just like a little teaser. It shows John David Washington like looking at like a bullet hole in a glass or something really quick, and then it has Tenet because it's like a, what do you call it, like a palindrome where it can be read same forward as backwards, and so it's like spinning, and you can see it says the same thing both ways, and it just has really big emphasis on Christopher Nolan's name because it should.
Because it's Christopher Nolan. That's interesting. I haven't heard. This is the first I've heard anything about this.
I haven't seen
I mean,
any
I
of
knew
it.
it was coming out, and that's it.
Yeah,
I didn't realize there was promotion already for it.
So I don't know. Besides The Dark Knight, I don't think we've done any other Christopher Nolan ones. And so if you guys don't know already, you should know that I am the biggest Christopher Nolan fan ever. I love all of them. Super pumped for it to come out. And then also some other trailers. I don't remember the name of it, but there was that trailer. I don't know if you guys saw it with Jamie Foxx and Brie Larson and guy in Black Panther, which I know his name. I love him.
Chadwick Boseman.
No.
The guy who
Michael
was
B.
in
Jordan.
Creed 2. Michael B. Jordan, yep.
Yep.
So it's them, and it's about him. Michael B. Jordan's like a lawyer who defends people on death row, and Brie
I saw
Larson's
that
like his
one.
girlfriend or something. I hadn't seen
Okay.
anything about it until I saw this theater, and it comes out in like December. So pretty excited for that. So that's just sort of my little input is get excited for some more movies that are coming up. What about you, Casey? Or did you already say?
I just watched Vikings.
Oh, yeah, my bad.
And then we
We can
watched
cut
like
that.
more of those 2-minute thrillers on Netflix. That's a really cool. Like if you only have a short amount of time and you're like, I want to be a little creeped out, they're just called like two sentence horror movies. They're super cool. I recommend them to anyone. They're just on Netflix, and literally they're like 15 to 17 minutes long, and they are horror without the fluff. And it is great and excellent, and I recommend it to all who want to get a little thrill in their day. But
It's
yeah,
Halloween season. People
Yeah.
should be doing that.
Spooky season.
We're gonna try to watch all of the Child's Play series this Halloween season because I've only seen Child's Play 1 and 2, and I've seen parts of Bride of Chucky and parts of Seed of Chucky. And from what I saw of those two movies, it turned me off of the franchise. But Michael, who is he comes on the podcast quite often, claims that they had a return to form with Cult of Chucky before they rebooted this one, and so I just want to see what all the hubbub is about.
See, I didn't watch the new Child's Play, but I really want to because I don't know how I didn't know, but I learned this week that like one of the main people is Aubrey Plaza,
Yeah,
and so I'm super pumped. I gotta watch it
and
now.
Mark Hamill does Chucky's voice. And
Well,
stuff.
yeah.
Oh, no
Of
way.
course.
Yeah, which I mean, fine. But I learned that the guy who plays Grima Wormtongue in
Lord of
Lord
the
Oh,
of the Rings is the guy who
Jars.
does Chucky, the original Chucky. And I've seen the original Chucky a bunch of times, and I never put that together. But we were watching it, and my wife turns to me, and she's like, "That's Grima." I was like, "Whoa, whoa!"
Mind blown.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
that's tight. What other big stars have been in like random horror films or like cult classics?
Oh, I mean, Jamie Lee Curtis got her start in Halloween.
yeah.
That's true.
She's a handsome woman.
Was.
She is.
No, dude,
I
they
love
dropped
Jamie Lee.
They dropped a new poster for the new Halloween, like Halloween. What's it called? Halloween Ends or something.
Yeah, you put me on the
That's-
spot. I can't remember.
I don't remember. Coming out next year, and it had her in it, and I think it was more just like a getting pumped for it because I think she was like in the makeup trailer or something like that. Dude, and you can tell that she is getting old, man. Like
Practically
she's-
a walking bag of
She
bones.
is still so pretty. Did you guys see her in the show with Nick Miller with Zoe Deschanel? New Girl.
New Girl.
Yeah,
Oh,
she
yeah.
plays Zoe Deschanel's mom, and she
Oh
is
yeah.
gorgeous in that movie. She is a really pretty older lady.
I remember her in Freaky
Props to
Friday.
you. No judging.
She was in that with, what's her face? Huh?
Lindsay Lohan.
Lindsay Lohan.
Oh, Freaky Friday?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a great one.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't seen the original or the new reboot Halloween with her, you should check it out.
Oh, yeah,
It's-
we've talked
it's
about it before.
Great, yeah.
I love
It's
it.
so
I think
good.
we should watch it as one of our films.
I would
this
love to.
season.
Yeah.
Yeah. We talked about, I think when we were doing those horror films, like right at the beginning, we mentioned it a lot because I had just barely seen it recently and I loved it. So,
I recommend it. Also, guess what I'm buying this week? Midsummer Hereditary double pack.
Ooh.
I'm very excited. Just in case anyone wants to know, I have them. Come watch them with me because I love those two movies. Should we kind of dive into what we're here for to
Yes,
talk about?
let's do it.
The Joker, or is it just called Joker?
just Joker.
Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix. How do you say it, Josh?
Joaquin.
Okay, yeah, he says it differently than I did. But yeah, so Vince, kind of give us the deets on it.
Yeah.
You always have the good stuff.
So we'll jump right into the info. So this movie just came out October 4th, 2019. Directed by Todd Phillips and written by Todd Phillips and Scott Silver. It had a budget of $55 million, and in the opening weekend alone, it made around $79 million. So it's made its money back.
I thought it was more than that.
It's probably more than that. That was according like Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Oh,
I guess
yeah.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and I looked it up on Sunday, so it's probably made more since.
Probably.
I'm
Dang.
sure it has. It's breaking records like left and right.
I think I saw.
I have the list of records that it's broken here.
I think I saw something today while you're pulling that up that said it just like broke yesterday or today like 100 million or something. So
Jeez. Yeah, so it's broken. It's the biggest October domestic and international opening of all time. Biggest IMAX October opening, biggest worldwide launch of all time for October, fourth best weekend opening for an R-rated picture in the United States, and widest October release of all time in North America.
yeah, because you think about it, like October, besides just like weird little like horror movies, is not really the time that people try to throw out their movies. If
No.
you're looking for like Oscar stuff, people will wait till November or December to make sure that their name is in there. And you know, the big movies come out in the summer, so October just kind of gets caught in that middle ground.
I think we're just going to start seeing more big movies released in October, because last year we had Venom that dropped in October, and that's $1 billion movie now.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Holy cow!
Yeah, Aquaman made so much money. I don't
shouldn't
know.
have.
I don't know how much. You got to look it up, but it's
Aquaman
up
made
there.
a ton of money. I didn't know Venom made any money. I didn't think people
I
really
don't know
liked
if it's
it.
$1 billion, but it's a
Oh.
lot of money. Venom did well.
Venom did really well for sure. So yeah. Anyway,
I have
sorry.
thoughts on
Did you?
Venom, but we can move on.
Wait, do you have positive thoughts or
No,
negative
they-
thoughts?
No,
are
it's
not
negative.
positive.
We talked about this. We can't get into it though.
I'm just curious.
Okay, did you like Venom?
Yeah.
All right, we're moving on here. So yeah, the movie is doing well. It's gotten a critic score of 69% on Rotten Tomatoes and an audience score of 90%, and IMDb is giving it a 9.0.
Wow.
So, start off here. There is Oscar buzz surrounding this movie. What are you guys' thoughts?
I want to know if you guys think it's warranted or unwarranted. If people are just thinking that Joaquin's just like diving to doing what he can to get an Oscar, and then I have some thoughts.
I don't think so. I think that this is a great film, and I think that Joaquin knew what he was doing and how to play the character really well. The thing is, though, is he portrayed like, and not to like bring in like obviously like there's spoilers here. Right? Can I say spoilers now?
Yeah,
or
let's
are we
just start with spoilers.
spoilers? Spoilers. Okay, but essentially, like the big twist on this film, right, is that the Joker is actually someone with a mental illness, and who is struggling with a lot of things, and he played that character so well. Like I've worked with a lot of adults, with developmental disabilities and stuff like that, and like I had a brother with autism and stuff like that, and so I know really well a lot of the tics and behaviors and stuff like that. He did so well. It wasn't over exaggerated. Some of it was just, I think he did great. I think it was phenomenal, and I think that he deserves an award for sure. I just don't know if he's going to get it, because I think people are going to maintain that idea that he might have tried too hard.
Do you think that he'll for sure get a nomination for
Yes.
the Oscars?
Yes.
Yeah. I'd like to think that part of the big reason why there is so much like buzz around it is not just because he did a really good job, but it's because he was tackling such an important topic nowadays of mental health. And so because of that, and because he portrayed it so well and not in a parody way that he was kind of making fun of it or anything, but it was real, and there were a lot of real mannerisms and things like that. I think that's why, is because he did play it so extremely well.
I mean, if we think about the Academy, that's really the things that they gravitate towards, right? If we look at the movies that have won Best Picture and stuff in the past few years, all of them, not all of them, pretty much all of them, they'll have to do with something that is a big problem or something like that in society. I mean, we look at Green Book, we look at The Shape of Water, we look at all those that have won through the past 3 years. Moonlight, which, if you haven't seen Moonlight, watch that. Amazing. I'm pretty sure it's on Amazon Prime right now, so check it out.
Heavy.
They just tackle those big problems, and this is one that does that, and it's a sort of a new one. And I also really think that he was just doing what he wanted to do for this, because if you listen to him talk about it, he originally, when they approached him with it, he was like, I'll try out for it. He's like, I don't know if I'm like super psyched like about this. He's like, I don't know if this is like the role that I'm like wanting to do something really big. And then after he did it, he was really into it. So what do you think, Vince?
I mean, I agree with you guys entirely. Like, one of the biggest compliments I can give is I went and saw this with one of my buddies, and after the movie ended, I leaned over to him and I was like, that Joaquin Phoenix, man, that guy can act. He's like, yeah, he's really good. What else has he been in? I was like, oh, you've seen him before. You know, he was in Walk the Line, and he was in Are You Really Here? Whatever that movie's called.
He's in Gladiator.
And I dropped Gladiator, and he's like, whoa, wait. He's the guy from Gladiator? I'm like, yeah. He's like, mind blown, you know? Like, he just completely set him apart from this other role that he's so well known for. And he really does. Just like Heath Ledger, when Heath Ledger played the Joker. Like, he becomes Arthur. You can't see Joaquin Phoenix anymore when you watch this movie. He lost like 52 pounds, so he's like a skeleton. His mannerisms are just so much different. The way he talks is so timid and different. It's just I don't know much about like the Oscar races, but I haven't seen a performance like this that's so transformative in a while now. So I think if he does get, I guarantee he gets nominated at least for this role. Don't know if he'll win it, but I don't know. He's up there in the movies that I've seen. He's up there for sure for me.
Sorry. So beside from that, do you guys think that it deserves Best Picture consideration as well?
Yeah,
at
so
least
they're also talking for Best Film and Best Director is kind of the rumor going around, that it could be nominated for all three of those movies.
And that one I would honestly, because I think that personally, just because of how much I loved, because, you know, you'll hear it during the whole podcast how much I love this movie, I think it deserves Best Film consideration. I also think that it deserves Best Directing consideration, but it was such like a surprise for me coming from Todd Phillips, the guy who did The Hangover, the guy who directed Old School, which I love, by the way.
Starsky and Hutch.
Exactly.
Another one of his classics. Like, he came from a comedy background and just drops this heavy piece of drama on us. And the tone that he is able to balance throughout this whole thing, like how serious this is, yet he balances some humor in there. I mean, there's not a lot of it, but every once in a while when it gets really, really heavy, he'll drop a nice piece of comedy. And
or attempted humor, because that's exactly what Arthur is, right, and what he's doing. But
I don't know.
Pursuing a career in stand-up comedy. Well, don't you have to be funny to do that?
Not a requirement.
I guess not. So yeah. So that was just sort of my thing, is that I would love to see it come award season. I know that it's caused a lot of controversy, a lot more than other ones have, because there's a lot of, you know, things that could be pretty heavy topics. Like, because obviously when we talk about it with the other movies that have come out that have won, racism is a big topic, but I'm pretty sure all of us are pretty combined in like moving forward against racism. There's a lot of people who have a lot of mixed opinions as far as shootings go and as far as mental health goes and things like that. So that's why I feel like the critic score also is like really low, because a lot of people think that it's portraying things in a bad way, but I hope that enough people recognize like what it's trying to do and how well it portrays things like that it'll get the recognition and the awards that it deserves.
So surrounding this controversy, do you want to kind of explain, Cade, you knew a little bit more about kind of what's going on. What was the controversy going on behind it all?
So there were a lot of different theaters and people in general that were just kind of worried with this movie because they were afraid that it incited violence. They were afraid that people were going to watch this movie and think, oh, this guy became, kind of an icon within his little area because he shot people, because he killed people, whatever. And so they're going to think that it's okay, or it might encourage things, which obviously not. But there were a lot of different theaters that were hesitant on showing this movie. And so I think that that's where a lot of the controversy came from, is especially, throwback to the Aurora shooting forever ago. There were a lot of people that, had been affected by that shooting that were specifically speaking out on this, saying this is not the right time for this movie. We are past the time where a movie like this can be aired. And, I don't know if you guys agree with that or not, but that's just kind of what the controversy was about. And before I saw the movie, I didn't really understand it until after I saw it, and then I got where they were coming from. Do I agree with it? Is a different topic.
This is my biggest problem with this whole thing is there was people speaking up about this controversy who had never even seen the movie. Mm-hmm. They're going on what a handful of people who saw the movie said and then forming their own opinion without seeing a piece of art. Like, a movie is a piece of art. People can interpret a piece of art however they want. So my biggest problem is we had this giant explosion of people boycotting this movie, saying it shouldn't be shown, saying it's not the right time for it, without even knowing what it was.
Right.
And going into the movie, like, it kind of sucked because all I could do was watch for that. Like, what in this movie sparked this controversy? Instead of taking the movie and interpreting it myself, I'm watching for, why would I commit violence because of this movie? And so it's like it's this terrible thing where, like, if it incites violence, that's terrible, but, like, is this mass frenzy that the media had built up going to cause the violence that they're trying to prevent by shining a light on it? I feel like it's a big circle, and it's hard to talk about and it's hard to address because it's a terrible thing, but I don't think that you can boycott something like this. I think that these types of movies, these topics shouldn't be ignored. They should be something that we talk about. Like, when I walked out of the movie, I didn't walk out thinking I want to go commit violence. I was thinking, oh man, we need to be better at the world because this person had a terrible life and it created this terrible person. If someone was just nice to him, like one of the characters in the movie,
right,
was nice to him, and Joker, like, let him go, like, if that's the message I took away from it, is let's be better people to these people who need it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and see, I think the exact same thing. I think that I got a lot more of it the second time that I watched it, both because I already sort of knew where it was going and I could look deeper, as well as the fact that I was able to, watch it for what it was and also not be looking for that controversy, what would cause the uproar and everything like that. And so I feel like it was kind of, I understand where people were coming from about it, but I also agree with you where I think it was, there's really good things to come out of the movie. And like you said, I think there are very few people, that would walk out of that and be like, let's, anarchy, let's do this. Like, let's riot in the streets, So, yeah.
There's always, right, with all good things, right, there's always a small few who ruin it for the masses, right? And we should wholeheartedly acknowledge that, right? That there are going to probably be a few people that attempt to take radical action, and unfortunately, there might be people that succeed in it. And I hate to say it like that, but the reality of it is if you don't leave this movie thinking about the way that you behave and act around more people, you should probably go watch it again and think about the way you treat people. Because really, the reality of this show is I looked at it as an opportunity to be kinder and an opportunity to really see more people. Because we can all admit it, and I think that whoever you are, if you're listening to this or, tomorrow or in a month, you can think about someone in your office or someone you pass every day and you just don't even think twice about because a little bit dirtier, they do something a little bit different, or they're just plain out weird, right? And just even like, I don't know what you want to call it, just avoiding those people or ignoring those people causes an impression upon them. And so I think that the hard part is to know what this movie is actually speaking about isn't necessarily violence. It's what does cause people to act out into a bigger form. And I think that the reality of it is more of us could do more to help people to feel loved and to feel appreciated, even if they are I hate to say it like this, but the low of the low within our society. But I think that this movie, like, yeah, you should be concerned because you are a part of the problem sometimes with people acting out, unfortunately. I don't know. I'm a part of the problem, I know. So, I don't know.
It kind of reminded me a lot of 13 Reasons Why, that TV show, because within that TV show, spoiler alert, she ends up committing suicide at the end. And that show also had a lot of controversy around it because people thought that it was encouraging suicide. And I took from it that it really just started that conversation. And so it reminded me a lot of it because it opens up the conversation to mental health. But
it does. And
I couldn't, sorry.
People are,
I didn't see it.
I like you guys said it. Like, people are worried that it's going to inspire the few people to do violence or to commit suicide. And I think that just, like, it's sad, and we hope that it doesn't happen. But, that's us as a society. We need to help those who need help, So if we just kind of sweep this kind of thing under the rug and we're not having these types of conversations or whatever, then it's never going to get thought about. So, we can at least agree on that this movie, as controversial as it is, and some people don't think it should have been released. Some people, like us, are happy it was. At least it sparked this sort of conversation where we can kind of recognize it, talk about it, right?
Well, yeah, because exactly us talking about it is going to be the thing that leads people to thinking about it. And, just like Casey mentioned, just being nice to that person, just doing everything that we can to make sure that we are the best people that we can be to everyone around us, that we can be kind, that we can make sure that we're doing our part to make sure that everyone feels welcome in this world, because this world belongs to all of us. It doesn't just belong to the people who feel like they belong or the people who feel like they run the world. Like, this world is a world of, millionaires who lives in mansions. This world is a world of people who are homeless and live on the street. And we just need to realize that every single person is a human being and that we need to love everyone no matter how they act or anything like that. And I just think that it kills it. We'll talk about it more. I have a couple things I wanted to say, but I know we'll get into it as the show goes along more in depth.
Let's get into it. So just to run through it, this movie starring Joaquin Phoenix, Zazie Beetz, Robert De Niro, and Frances Conroy as Arthur's mother. There are a couple casting considerations that I'm going to run past you guys. So Joaquin Phoenix was, when Todd Phillips was writing the script, they had Joaquin Phoenix in mind. That's who they wanted to play him. But the studio, as usual, has a couple of other ideas. There were two people that they thought about. One of them, it sounds pretty official that they actually did want to. The other one seemed like it's kind of a rumor. Number one, Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, I heard that one for sure.
And number two, the rumor, Bill Skarsgård.
I didn't hear that one.
Straight off of Pennywise, huh?
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking like they saw him in Pennywise and they're like, oh, look, he can play a clown. Let's put him in makeup again.
No, that would be so bad. I would hate that.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's just a rumor. I hope that they would consider that.
But Leonardo DiCaprio, I kind of feel the same way about him as I do with Joaquin Phoenix. If we're ever going to get Leonardo DiCaprio in a superhero movie, it's going to be one of these very artsy standalone movies. And I'd love to see what kind of he does with it. I don't know if I'd want to see him as Joker, but
see, I think that Joaquin Phoenix did great, and I think he was the best one for this role. But I also think about Leonardo DiCaprio playing this role, and I think it would have been really good as well. I think about those scenes of him like in the alley, like stomping the trash and like everything like that, and I can just see Leonardo DiCaprio like doing stuff like that.
At the same time, though, after listening to Joaquin talk about the experience, I was watching some YouTube videos of him, the interviews with him, and listening to the way that they created this movie. It was very much it wasn't a storyboarded, go out, shoot exactly what you storyboarded, move on. They went out there and they would take Joaquin Phoenix and they would put him in a room and they give him an idea of what they want the scene to be and everything, and then they would just kind of let him run. So Joaquin, the way that he films, he kind of talks about how he doesn't care what the cameramen are doing or what the director's doing with the camera or the angles that they're getting. He just believes to get a really good performance out of an actor, you just got to let him act, let him do his thing. And so even Todd Phillips said that, the scene in the bathroom where Joker, right after he kills those first three people, he goes in and he starts to dance. That scene was written out entirely different. It was written out for him to go in, look for somewhere to hide the gun, wash the makeup off his face, and look in the mirror. And they went into the bathroom. They played that out. And Joaquin and Todd were both like, this doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel like something Arthur would do. And so they sat in there, just the two of them, for an hour. And Todd Phillips says that there's 250 crewmen outside of the bathroom. And they just were sitting there talking about, like, what does this scene need? And the director had an audio clip that they play in the movie. And he just in passing was just like, oh, by the way, here's kind of this audio clip that they sent me for it, and started playing it. And Joaquin started dancing to the music, and they're like, this is it. This is the part of the movie. This is what he would do. And so that scene turned into something completely different than what they had planned.
Which, by the way, a shout out to the guy who wrote the soundtrack, the score for this movie. I was listening to it, and obviously it's so moving in parts. Like this part where he dances with the cello that's playing, and it's just it's so lonely because it's a single instrument, but it's so large as well because he feels like he's like finding his place and everything like that. It's amazing. And I'm like, dude, I like this guy. I should look up what else he does. And he did one of my other favorite things that came out this year, which was Chernobyl. He did the soundtrack for Chernobyl. So,
but I'm just saying, like, you need an actor's actor for a type of movie like this. Leonardo DiCaprio, I think, would be really creative and really well in this too. But you need someone who can sit there and think outside the box and actually get in the mindset of that character. This goes back to why I think Joaquin Phoenix deserves this Oscar, because he really just became this character throughout the process. And they were consistently changing things, tweaking things, putting Joaquin in a room and just letting him go to a part of the room that he thinks that Arthur would go in. You know, I don't know. I don't know if you could replace Joaquin in a movie like this.
I definitely agree, and I'm glad that he did that because that's one of my favorite scenes of the entire movie.
Mm-hmm. Jumping right into the movie, it starts off with a news narration talking about Gotham in general, kind of what's going on. It's got this dirty kind of late 70s feel. There's giant super rats crawling around. There's a garbage strike going on. People are on edge. I don't know. What did you guys think about it?
It's such a good start to this film because it's kind of gritty. You get in and it's the politics of everything. And this movie is very political, right? And it is going in. It's like there's a trash strike, super rats. The mayor is calling for something. Somebody's announcing they're going to run for mayor. There's businesses going out. The economy's not as good. Like, it is right off the bat. You're like, wow. This is fairly realistic of our time today. Like, the economy's good, but there's always that, like, I'm talking like new political parties in Canada's coming out. There's always trouble. Somebody wants to make more money somewhere, so let's strike a little bit. And it was a good feel. And the way that they shot it too, like the classic Warner Brothers logo, you get right into the feel of this is history. This happened. And it felt almost like it could have happened in real time. You know, I liked it.
Yeah. One of the things that I really liked is when they were showing the city, and especially Arthur's environment, it was very grungy and dirty. But then again, when they showed the rich area, like with Thomas Wayne, it was very bright, and it showed that it was clean and everything that was different. And so I think that was a really good contrast for the movie because it showed obviously the different types of people, and it showed, their classes. And I think that really speaks a lot to the movie itself because people are looking for a leader, and the Joker himself sometimes is political within his tirades. He can be kind of a philosopher within that, and there's some stuff I'd like to talk about that later, but I'll get to that. And so I think that within that, especially towards the end of the movie, you kind of feel like the people are starting to want a leader. They're wanting change so it's not dirty, so it's not a horrible, scary place. And so I think that they're showing you kind of the beginning and where everybody's at, not just Arthur, because they're all kind of in a similar poor and awful place.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we talk about, we shared both, I think, on our Instagram and on our Twitter a little bit from one of our favorite accounts that we follow, and we love to see what they put out, which is Color Palette Cinema. They have like a color palette for like this show, and for a lot of the show it goes between this dark like mustard brown and turquoise, sort of that sort of feel, and just sort of that darker, like Cade mentioned, not as bright, is just sort of how a lot of the movie is shot, and it gives you that feel. And so the production design is really excellent to go along with how they want it to feel. He talks about, sort of like I mentioned at the beginning, like both here in our real world and in this world, in this Gotham, like, is it just me or is things getting crazier out there? And so that's what's happening, is it's just descending into madness. Everything is dark. And as, we'll talk about, something bright, something colorful needs to come to pass and incite change. So
I love this version of Gotham City. It's my favorite that I've seen out of any interpretation. The animated series.
Don't like Chicago?
Chicago was cool. Don't get me wrong.
I was just kidding. No, I agree.
Don't get me wrong. It looks great, but this version shot in New York. Gotham has always had, it was New York. All of us know it was New York, you know.
What?
I know, surprising, huh?
On an island?
But this is the most like desperate you've ever seen Gotham. Like, Chicago was cool, and they tried to make it like show you these parts of Gotham that kind of looked all grungy and dirty and like, look, we have a problem. Look, the mob bosses are taking over. Look at all this bad stuff going on. But you never really feel it in those Christopher Nolan movies. This one, everything is just, you can feel that this is a place where someone would get shot in the alley after they see a movie. Everyone is just down on their luck, trying to get on top. Everything's dirty. Everything's just bad. And it just, in every scene, in every angle, like, it's beautiful at times. It's shot in such a really, really cool way. But this is the most desperate I've ever seen Gotham City. And I absolutely love that with it. Like we've seen, like I said, we have a ton of interpretations. We have the really gothic look of the animated series or the Tim Burton version. We've got the shiny, like, realistic version of the Dark Knight series of Chicago, and then you just have this grungy, real, just dirty rotting version of New York. And it just, I don't know. I can see this being the start of Batman. Of Bruce Wayne walking down this alley, seeing his parents die, and just seeing all these problems in this place. And I not only do I see it, but I feel it as I'm watching this, like, this is where it starts.
You just, like, hear the Batman theme music, like,
Yes.
coming.
I'm like jumping up in the theater like, yeah!
Gotham is in trouble.
I don't know. I loved it. I loved this world that Todd Phillips created. And we'll talk about this later, but I really hope this isn't all that we see of this world, whether it be a Joker sequel or whether it be something else. This is the realism I'm looking for, the grown-up realism of a comic book that I want, starting not even with the characters, with the world, with the city.
Muted. Sorry, I thought of the color that
muted tones.
The muted tones. That's what because we talk about, like, the turquoise and the brown and stuff. It's all, except for very specific parts, it's all very muted colors, which is beautiful.
Love the colors, love the grunginess, love the city. And I want to touch on that a little bit too. I felt an actual weird connection with this city that I don't think that I feel in other movies, right? When you go into Batman Begins, right, when he, like, burns all his stuff, like, that's, I feel like, the grungiest part of that whole Nolan series, right, where they're down, he burns his stuff in the barrel, his wallet, and says, nice jacket, and trades coats with the homeless guy. And this movie, it's like garbage.
And then you do also see where Arkham Asylum is. I can't remember what they call it.
Oh, yeah.
But it feels so fake.
Arkham State Hospital.
Yeah.
I think.
No, not in the movie, not in Joker,
Oh,
in the
okay.
Christopher Nolan movies. Like, you see it down by the
Oh, yeah.
across the bridge at the end of the movie. They have the big climax, but it doesn't feel real.
Yeah.
This just feels real. Sorry to interrupt you.
Well, no, it totally feels real. And I think that that's a good way to put it because I don't know if I'm jumping ahead or not, but this is something when they went into, like, where they were getting ready to be clowns, right? That was just like a dirty locker room, essentially, right? It's just like, here are a couple of desks over here. Here are these guys painting their faces, getting their clowns on. But it was like everything was the same, except for, like, you talked about it, right? The colors between the rich and the poor. And these guys are just, like, clowning around, working in the clown industry. And they're showing, like, they're just around a room. They're smoking everywhere. Oh, let's talk about this, too. The smoking fit the film so well, too. It wasn't like a lot of people like, oh yeah, smoking, it's gross. But it fit the time period so well, and it made the characters' behaviors and mannerisms, like stick and par, and why was he so skinny, other things like that. It just plays off of, it was such a good timepiece, and it makes me think that, like, was the world this color, back in the day? Like,
Yeah.
this is how people saw the world, but, like, the fashion and everything, like the costumes, like, they made it so well that I connected with the whole thing, and I was like, this is Gotham, and it felt right.
Did it kind of like, I don't want to go to Gotham, but did it kind of make you want to live in that time period? I mean, I have my thoughts on this version of Joker, but I don't think he's looked better in any movie. His style, his suit, his hair going back, the makeup style that they put on him. He looks so good in this movie.
And he looks so different. I mean, you already can barely tell when you see Arthur Fleck that it's Joaquin Phoenix, you know, because it's so different. Once he puts on the makeup, you can't even really see a lot of Arthur Fleck in there. You can see his reactions and everything. One of my favorite shots is one of those that he's there with when he's on the Murray Bauman show, and it's from the side. It's him looking, and he's like really sad, and you can see that in his face. But you still struggle a lot of times to see like the Arthur underneath, you know? And so I'd agree that it's like really good.
I have something on this. I was just kind of looking up information about the movie, something that I didn't necessarily know. And I came across this. It says the Joker's makeup is very similar to John Wayne Gacy's. If you don't know him, he was a serial killer back in the day who would dress up as a clown to lure children and kill them. Anyways, so at the time, it said that makeup style was shunned by working clowns as they strictly prohibit sharp ends to their makeup as it would scare children. So he has the blue, like, triangles under his eyes, and normal working clowns didn't necessarily do that, but he did. And so, I mean, maybe that was some sort of foreshadowing, but I just thought it was kind of an interesting detail.
Even the smile that he would paint on goes to a point in there.
Exactly.
It's unsettling. Mm-hmm. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I never thought about that. That's really cool, actually.
But there's more than one reference to John Wayne Gacy in the movie too. The comedy club that he goes to is called Pogo's, and that's the name that John Wayne Gacy's clown took on. He was Pogo the Clown.
Pogo?
So they're like, they took some definite
Absolutely.
inspiration from then.
Like, not just like you could view it this way. It's like a straight.
It's like, no, clowns are crazy. Look.
No clowns.
But yeah, let's get into Arthur himself. Like you said, like he's working as a clown. He goes out on the street corner spinning signs. He's one of these guys that are kind of down on his luck.
Well, this is a guy who's like, and he talks about in the movie, right? He's been supporting his mother for as long as he can remember, and he's doing anything to get by. And dressing up as a clown, and obviously, like, there are clowns who love their job and support their profession, but dressing up as a clown who's trying to sell discounted music stuff for a business going out of business, that's not a happy thing to do. It's not enjoyable. Mm-hmm. And then, like, think about it, like, people are walking by, you know, ignoring him, not paying attention. He's out there just trying to put on a good show, you know, and get people's attention. And the only thing he gets is ridiculed. And he is just attempting to do it and make his day, and these kids steal his sign, and then they just beat him down with his own sign. And I laugh at that, and it's sad, because I just think it's just so terrible that he's just trying to do everything he can, and the world is just continually pushing him back, beating him back, beating him back, beating him back. And there he is, just a guy trying to do right by his mother, who is sick and ill, and the world who is already against him because of the way he naturally is. It's just a really sad overall dynamic. It sets you up for such a, like, you want to sympathize with the character, and I think that's where a lot of people also found a little bit of controversy, because you can feel really bad for him. Like, the very first part when he gets the crap beat out of him, he's just laying there and he, like, reaches for his broken sign, and you're like, I feel so bad for you.
I found myself sympathizing with him a lot until one point. So this is a guy who's working this, in my opinion, a crappy job. He seems to absolutely love it. This seems to be the one place that he's, like, kind of, you know, almost happy. He says he's never happy, but he's almost happy when he puts on the makeup and he goes out and he performs. He's been told his whole life, like, you're here to make people happy. You're here to make people smile.
I've actually got something on that too. So another thing, Todd Phillips actually specifically came out and he described Joaquin Phoenix's take on Arthur as a guy who is legitimately searching for his identity, who mistakenly becomes a symbol. His goal was genuinely to make people laugh and bring joy to the world.
Yeah, he's really trying, but he's got this severe mental issue that prevents that. Like, through the whole movie. I mean, this is one of my favorite things. It's the Joker laugh. Like, that in itself sums up exactly what you're saying. It's this version of this person who's so mentally ill that he can't control his emotions, and when he gets highly stressed or he gets, you know, humiliated or something, he starts uncontrollably laughing. It's called a pseudo-Bulbar effect or something like that, which is apparently a real disease. where you just start uncontrollably laughing to the point it looks painful. And Joaquin Phoenix actually like watched some videos to find that laugh. But then he also has this other laugh that it's his like, I'm trying to fit in laugh. I'm trying to be normal. He has that line in The Notebook that's like, the worst part about having a mental illness is people expect you to act like you don't have a mental illness. But he can't act like that. He doesn't know how, and it keeps showing it over and over again in the movie. And I found myself like sympathizing with this guy over and over again and thinking, you know, if people would just be nice to him, if people would just help him, if they would treat him a different way, then he wouldn't become this monster. Up until that one moment where he ends up defending himself, shoots 2 guys, and then hunts down a 3rd guy, kills him in cold blood kind of on the subway there. And then from then on, I couldn't sympathize with him anymore. Like, I saw this guy being treated terribly and then make a decision. And then from there on out, the decisions that he started to make when he started kind of finding out who he was and how this made him feel, I could no longer sympathize with him because he had crossed this line that I just can't justify.
Can you believe that though? Like you feel for this guy, and then all of a sudden you're like kind of, I don't want to say if the word is like repulsed by him, like you're pulled back and you're like, oh, but you're just like, what just happened? And how did this series of decisions get you to being more comfortable behind this makeup and becoming, I don't know if it's a symbol or becoming just a madman, true and true, right? Is that the right way to say it? True and true? I don't know, but yeah.
So I would obviously not. So I would say that you don't sympathize with him past that point, yet you understand. You're not like saying, okay, it's okay, because you say like, I wouldn't cross that line, but you still see the reasons, you still see why he was led to that point, and you understand why he begins to feel that identity, because he's put into the same situation twice. He's on the ground, he's getting kicked and beaten by these kids, and you see that at the very beginning of the movie, where he's getting kicked and beaten by these kids, and like the Joker pops up to like reveal like the title, because this is who he is. He's a broken man. And then after he was given that, and he was given the gun, and he's getting beaten and everything, and it's like the rest of his life where he doesn't have a lot of control, but then he does something and he feels that he has control of his life. That's why he begins to find his identity, because the reason that he talks about it later, he's like, I killed those guys, I didn't feel so bad about it. And I think that the reason he didn't feel so bad about it was because for one of the first times in his life, he felt like he had control, you know, because he's trying to live this life where he's, like you talked about, that line that he wrote in his notebook was so powerful when I saw it. He's trying to put up this front to be the person that no one like, to be someone that he's not really. Because he also talks about later in the movie, he says, I thought this laughing and trying to be who else, like someone else, I thought I needed to do that, but I found out that my laughing, it's just me, like it's who I am. I need to be myself. So he's putting up this front, trying to be someone else, and then when he like shoots these guys and he feels that control, like it's an overwhelming sense of, oh, like this is what I am, this is who I can be, which is why I love the bathroom scene, not because obviously that we like that he becomes that person, but just that we see he does his dance, and while the dance is his own, it also in a ways mimics Murray Bauman, who's like kind of an idol to him doing his thing. So he has found his thing. He's been discovering his identity, and he finds what makes him feel in control for the first time in his life.
Yeah. I think, so just going back a little bit to what you were talking about, the laughs, I actually would even argue that there's a third. So I agree with what you said, him trying to fit in, kind of be one of the guys, as well as his, painful laugh. But then at the end, and not to jump super far ahead, but at the end when he's laughing and he tells the woman, oh, you just wouldn't get it. I don't think that that's either one of them. I think that that is his, like, a genuine, like, laugh, because he's happy, like, with his crazy self. But to add on to what you were saying, I think that I would say that I was able to sympathize a little bit longer than when he hunted down the person in the subway. Yeah, would I do that? Absolutely not. And was it still messed up? Of course. My wife is so funny because she gets so kind of twitchy with like murders and stuff in movies. And now, I mean, after seeing all sorts of movies, it's whatever. But when that was happening, I could hear her whisper under her breath, like, oh, geez. And that I was like, you know what? Like, I get it. It's fine. But then the part where I wasn't even able to understand his thought process, understand where he was coming from, was when he murdered the other clown, the big guy. when he just brutally murders that guy, that was the point where it was like there was no sympathy, there was no understanding. I was just, you are crazy now.
Well, sorry to interject here.
No, I was done.
This part actually, like with this big clown, was one of the biggest things that really amazed me. Okay, so this guy comes up right when you meet him in the locker room, buds up with him, right? Like, oh, hey, you're doing great. Like, you're doing really good. I've heard a lot of things.
You know you're my boy.
Yeah, you're my boy. And he's like, you need to get something to defend yourself, like, and he gives him a gun, and he's like, I'm not supposed to have one of these, right?
That's my favorite line, by the way. Sorry, just a quick, I'll let you keep going. My quick little interjection. It's like one of my favorite Joaquin Phoenix's lines, because just like kind of gritting his teeth, I'm not supposed to have a gun.
And that's exactly what went through my head. As soon as he hands him the gun, I was like, this guy should not have a gun.
Exactly, right? It's so crazy right there. And it's like, this guy might have had good intentions, or was he just trying to get him fired? Like, what were the intentions of doing it? Because here you have this idea that this is for him to defend himself. But then you have this other idea, and I'm raising an invisible hand over here, where it's like, hey, this is to get him fired. This is to cause trouble. This is so that he doesn't have to put up with this weird guy with a strange laugh, that he doesn't quite understand. Because he walks down into the hall, and the boss is like, a lot of the other guys think you're a freak, but I like you. I don't know why, but I like you. And then he gets to this point, like, where he's shot 3 people. He invites, like, his buddies come over after his mother is dead, and they're just like, hey, we brought you a bottle, essentially. Let's, like, soothe each other and sit here and talk about the good things of life. And he just says, whoosh, 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 you're done. Like, this is it. Because, people are like, oh, yeah, so-and-so said this about you. And he just took it back out on him, because we don't know really what the intent was of him giving him this gun. Was it for protection, or was it for a fireable offense? What was it?
I think it was for protection, because I think that he seemed like a good guy, but since it got him fired, I think that he took it a different way.
When it fell out at the children's hospital, that was
Holy
nuts.
cow. I freaked out. I think me and my wife and everyone were just like,
exactly.
What the heck? And then he's just like, shh, don't tell anyone.
And you have that one kid, the little girl who's still like clapping. She's kind of like,
It's all fun.
Yeah.
she's like, that's a gun.
There was that moment, and then there was another moment later in the movie when the cops are coming after him, and he's at the hospital with his mom because she just had her seizure or whatever, and he turns around to go into the hospital and runs into the glass door.
Yo, but
I just started laughing so hard.
It was really funny, but it was also sad because he literally like stormed off in the best way possible.
Oh, he did.
Like he said the
had his
line,
moment.
flicked the cigarette, said the line, flicked the cigarette, and then and ran into the door.
That was the cleanest glass door in the entire city.
It's like a Michael Scott door.
That's what I was thinking. Hey, it's really clean, okay?
But I 100% agree with you guys, though. Well, okay. For me, it was the moment in the subway when he hunts that guy down. He walks intentionally through the subway, chasing the guy, shoots him once, downs him, and then shoots him three more times. That's where I disconnected. But like you said, that moment in the apartment when he kills that big guy, that just like hammered it in even more. And it made this version of Joaquin, of the Joker, he's not my favorite version, I don't think, but it put it up there for me. Because Joker, from my understanding, is like they say in The Dark Knight, he's an agent of chaos. He just does. We discussed The Dark Knight at length, and the Joker's like what he's doing. He says he just does, but he always seems to have a plan, and he has plans for plans, but he doesn't really know what's going to happen. This is truly an agent of chaos from this point.
He just shows up at this rally, decides to like walk in, and he's like, oh, here's like a costume. Like, let's throw this on.
Yeah, he just does. He doesn't realize what he's causing. He doesn't realize what he's doing, but he's escalating this situation within New York more and more and more unintentionally. And this part in the apartment where he stabs this guy that gave him the gun, and the little person that's there with him, the one person in the world who is ever nice to him, I 100% thought he was a dead man. Joker lets the two of them in, and you see him, or Arthur, I guess, you see him lock the door with the deadbolt. He kills the big guy, and I just don't know what to expect. Like, it's true chaos at this point. I don't know what this man is capable of. He's sick, so I thought he was going to kill the big guy. He tells the little guy that he can leave. He goes, tries to open the door, and he's like, Arthur, I can't get out. And I thought that
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to laugh. It was so sad, but you were also laughing.
You felt so bad for it, but I was terrified in this moment. I was just like, Arthur is messing with this guy. I was like, he intentionally locked the door with the intention to kill both of these guys. And now he's just toying with this guy. He
I
can't
thought
reach
the
the bolt.
same.
The guy's going to come back. He's going to stab him too. But no, like, contrary to everything that I believed, he just like, no, you were nice to me. You were a good guy.
Because
let you go.
It's not even just that he kills him and like stabs him in the neck, because that's, you know, pretty brutal. It gets like
Gory.
like Quentin Tarantino-esque. He like starts shoving his head like against, not to like get too graphic on the podcast, but like he starts shoving his head against the wall, where you just start like wincing, you know. You're just like, holy cow, like he's taking it out on this guy. He's taking it all out on this guy. And so yeah, I agree, where you really didn't know.
And then his line right before that too, where he's just like, they're like, how you doing, Arthur? And he's like, oh, I'm doing pretty good. My mom just died. Celebrating, you know, I'm celebrating. My mom's dead. Like, he's finally free. He's finally free to be who he is. And the first thing that he does is get that control back again. And he just kills this guy who has just been kind of a crappy guy to him his entire life. He just starts getting revenge and doing the things that he wants to do. And it just becomes terrifying to me. I don't know what to expect from him. And with the Joker, I just always expect bad, like from the Heath Ledger Joker, I just expected bad to happen continually. And I was just surprised, taken aback by the fact that he just lets this guy go.
Especially because this also just almost seems like normal and stuff. Because after he does it, he just tries to engage in like a normal conversation. He tries to be funny. Because when he's talking to the guy, he like mimics his accent. And he's like, crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Me on the telly. Like,
Yeah.
like that when he's talking to the guy before he lets him out and everything. So it's super crazy. That's another one of my favorite shots that you've probably seen around, that I think right before he kills him, when he just has like the green hair and the white face paint without anything else, where he's got like his arms out on either side of the wall and he's like looking
so
up.
creepy.
That shot is crazy good.
So creepy.
I love it. Can I do Josh's thoughtful corner?
Yeah, let's hear Josh's thoughtful corner.
Insert sound effect. So Josh's thoughtful corner, I will do my best to keep it short and sweet, but I had a lot of thoughts, both about what you mentioned with that, as well as a couple of other things, some that we've mentioned, some not, that just as I was going home from the theater, I turned on like my little voice to memo effect and said,
Went for it.
Go do it. So I'll just, like I said, I'll do my best to keep it short, but I also had a lot of really thoughts that I thought was really important. So we talked a little bit about his laughter, and I talked about how his laughter and him being a clown is directly related to the themes and the main points of the movie, especially what we're talking about right now with him and his mother and how he's been raised. We hear many times about him and how he's told to put on a happy face. Think about how much that relates to his character. We think about times where we're put through trials, and all that we as humans strive for is a way to grieve, a way to release the strong emotions we feel after dealing with a traumatic experience. But he wasn't allowed this from a young age. While dealing with some of the hardest things a child can deal with, he was forced to put on a happy face, per se. Both with him being a clown, the makeup hiding who you really are, as well as with his laughter, which was so painfully emotional, we see his true desire to feel sadness is covered up by what was once a necessity to not feel emotion, to just be happy, as his mother told him. So it's shown was both straightforward and subtly throughout the film. One of my favorite parts was when they played the Jimmy Durante song, Smile. And so like the lyrics go like this. And just think about it while you're hearing the lyrics. I thought about it when I was listening to the movie, and I was like, what the heck? This is crazy. So the lyrics go, smile though your heart is aching, smile even though it's breaking. When there are clouds in the sky, you'll get by if you smile through your fear and sorrow, and maybe you'll see the sun shining through for you. So if you think about that, like in the context of the movie, like you think about it on a normal day and you're like, hey, this is good. Like just, smile even though stuff is hard and like you'll get through it. For him, it's a different thing. Is he was going through like the hardest stuff anyone could ever go through. And he was just like forced to smile, to laugh, to be happy, which he didn't want to do. And so now he like can't, the times where he wants to cry, it's laughter. It's painful, emotional laughter. You can tell for him, but it's laughter because that's what covers it up, just like his clown makeup. So I love that musical cue for the movie because it describes the story beginning to end of his life. We think about his story, and as I mentioned before, he had to deal with really strong emotions and hard times without properly grieving, but he was forced to bear it and grin with a smile even though he didn't want to. While his heart was breaking and when all was dark, he was forced to smile. Maybe that's why he even became a clown in the first place, was to bring joy because all he could do was smile. I think the song's a perfect representation as well because at times in the movie we see specific lines from the song being shown. Specifically, the movie, like we talked about, is very muted and dark with its color scheme for most of it while he's experiencing rough times. But when he does things for him that are a release of emotion, he's able to experience happiness and warmth, and we get a bit of a brighter color scheme. Specifically, when he kills his mother, when he's finished, he goes and he looks out the window, and like the song says, there's literally like rays of sunlight coming down and hitting him on the face. It's like the song says. So he does something that is a release of emotion for him, and he's happy, and like the sun's coming in and hitting him. So even though it's like a dark, twisted way, it's what's making him happy and what's making him actually like feel good. And then we also see that brightness again when he's ready to go on the show and talk and do what feels is necessary through his suit, through his makeup, through everything which is brighter around him now, and not that dark mustard brown or turquoise like we talked about before. The colors are really good, blah, blah, blah. We already mentioned that. The thing is that he's also not blind to any of this. While he does have control of his like regular laugh and things like that, he's very aware of the front that he needs to put up for people. He wrote it himself. He said the worst part about having a mental illness is people expecting to act like you don't. It's so strong because it's so true. As a society, while we are working towards acceptance of all, we struggle sometimes. If people are different or don't fit in, they are treated differently. As he knows he is different, obviously, he also struggles with this. He just wants to be himself. And he says that when he says his laughing isn't wrong, it's just who he is. It's the real me, he said. And then the very last part, which I just wanted to touch on with Arthur, was as much as bad as it is, I think one of my actual, like my number one favorite shot in the movie as far as moving the story would be the very end when he's, like we said, we'll talk about if it's real or not, which can be like our segue. But when he gets in the car crash and he's laid on like the roof of the car, and then he gets up and he draws the smile on his face with the blood and starts dancing. I think that was my favorite shot of the whole movie because he looked awful. Like right after that car crash, he looked so bad. Like his makeup's all over. Not gonna lie, he looked bad. Like his makeup's all over the place, and you could see. I have like a picture on my phone, which I'll show you guys after, and we'll like throw up somewhere. It just shows him right after, and he's just like so bad, and he looks super ugly. So he discovers the blood, and he uses it to draw the smile, and that blood is representative of the blood of the kills that caused him to discover something, to discover his identity that he used to become who he is now.
Interesting.
So, cool. Josh's Thoughtful Corner. Insert sound effect.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, that was cool. I have one more thought on Arthur just before we like change it. And I didn't think about this in the movie, but it was like much after. He's kind of old, and that's, I mean, it's not necessarily a big deal because the Joker never is like a said age, but he seems to at least be in his probably late 30s or early 40s, best case scenario, and yet Bruce Wayne is a kid. And so like, let's say that Bruce Wayne becomes Batman 20 years down the road, Joker's going to be in his 60s. How is he supposed to keep up and fight and all that kind of stuff with Batman? Something I thought I'd throw out there.
There's a theory going around that he's not the Joker, like the end Joker that we know.
So this is a perfect segue. How much of this story do you guys actually believed happened? There's a point in the movie where he says that he has completely stopped taking his meds. There's a whole story thread that we haven't even talked about with Zazie Beetz' character, Sophie, who we are led to believe they start a relationship. And then there's like the moments where he has the talking to his boss, he's getting fired, and then it cuts over and he's kicking a body in the alley. There's the moment where he sees himself in the Murray show, and Murray brings him down and accepts him as a father. Just shows us time and time again that this may not all be happening the way it's playing out.
Can I propose something to you guys? So right at the very first, earlier in the scenes of the movie, when he's downstairs talking with his like psychology lady or whatever, state mandated lady, you know how he's like, yeah, I liked it better when I was locked up, right? And at the end of the movie, where is he?
He's locked up again.
He's locked up. What if he's just getting out at the beginning of the film and it's a recap of his imagination and his hallucinations of when he was locked up?
Yeah, this whole story could be him, like the joke that he is referring to could have been that whole story that he just told to her. Mm-hmm. Like how much of this story is actually true coming from someone who consistently, and just in a way of telling the story that consistently plays with our beliefs and what's really happening. Oh, and that's what I'm saying with Batman. Like, this story could be changed in any way. There's the rumor that, like you were saying, Casey, that maybe this isn't the actual Joker. Maybe he saw someone like on TV or something and has adapted this story for his own life, kind of like his mother kept trying to do with Thomas Wayne, you know, telling Thomas Wayne, like, this is your baby, you have to be with me. Yet none of that was true. You know, he suffers from these delusions of grandeur. He wants to be happy and be in the spotlight. He wants his life to mean something.
Or what if the Joker is similar to like a Bruce Wayne who clones and has clones of himself that continue on type thing? Like, I'm not saying that the Joker is smart enough to do clones. No, isn't there a thing like, I feel like maybe I'm thinking something different. Oh, I'm thinking of Eon Flux, where they clone themselves.
There's also a Star Wars theory, a clone theory. Okay. Maybe you're confusing it with
I might be getting confused. But essentially,
there's
like...
an entire movie called The Clone Wars. I don't know.
But no, what I'm saying here and kind of where I stand is the person who, in the end, becomes the actual Joker, like, isn't this guy. He's a copycat. He is someone who takes a character larger than life. You can always, like, it's similar to Batman. There can always be someone behind the mask. It doesn't have to be the same person. And in the Dark Knight trilogy, right, he thinks it could be Harvey Dent at one point. The Joker is a mask, is a face that's painted. Why can't it be different people as well?
I mean, everybody in that mob took on the persona as the Joker.
Boom.
They all put on their masks.
Yeah.
You know, one of those people could have been the one that is inspired later that becomes the Joker that we know 30 years, 20 years later when Bruce Wayne grows up. You know, there's so many different ways they can take it. And this is my favorite part about the movie. The Joker has consistently said in all of his interpretations that he prefers his backstory to be multiple choice. And this movie was presented as the answer to that question. Where did the Joker come from?
But is it?
But they do it in a way that keeps it up for interpretation. How much of this story is true? Is this really the Joker? Did he go through any of this stuff? What parts of this is true? You know, it keeps that idea alive in such a cool way.
And it also puts you in the same position as the Joker, because for a lot of that movie, you think, whoa, Joker and Batman are brothers. Like, because it leads you to believe that, because you don't know that the mom's crazy yet, right? Mm-hmm. You just learn, he reads the note, and it's like, your son and I need help. And you're just like, what? Like, she was with Thomas Wayne, this is crazy. And it puts you in that same position because you truly believe that that's what's happened until you learn more about, like, what she went through and that she was actually crazy and that she, you know, let him be abused when he was smaller. And so you understand, like, sort of where he's coming from, and you can feel that because you felt that way part of the movie. You thought it was true, and you were like, whoa, that's cool, that's crazy. But then he keeps believing that when we accept the truth, whereas he can't accept it because, like you said, both his mother and him, they have these illusions of grandeur.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about this? Like that, put on a smile or a happy face or whatever. Like after him being abused, do you think that brings a different notion to the thought? Like he was being abused as a child, and his mom was probably sending him out to do things or neglecting him, and this is to cover up the neglect. This is like a really dark thing if you really get into thinking about it.
Sure.
It makes me feel uncomfortable.
And that's what I'm saying. It shines this light on this terrible, terrible thing, right? But it makes you kind of understand where he's coming from and why he acts the way he does. And it's so sad that he lives in this city that just doesn't care. Mm-hmm. That's disbanding these, what do you call it? The
social services.
The social services. Like they just cut the budget off. They just don't seem to care about these people who need help. You know, I'm sure it's a bigger issue than that, but I don't know. It's a really interesting idea that it explores here.
I'm really unfamiliar with the actual condition that he has, you know, what causes that kind of thing. But one of the things that I was thinking of is maybe it was something that he developed because his mother kept telling him, put on a happy face, you know, it's important to find the positives in things in life. And so he was doing that as a kind of a defense mechanism, laughing so that he could, you know, show his mom, hey, I'm happy. It's, you know, I don't know, that was just one of the things that
and I'm pretty sure they mentioned head trauma in the file, so I'm sure that
like
had something at play,
yeah.
like go to a happy place when all these bad things are happening and then you get bashed on the head real hard.
Exactly.
It probably confuses you a little bit.
And so I think it's a little of both, because on the little card he gives to the lady, it says it can happen due to like physical or like psychological trauma. And so I'm
He's
pretty
got
sure
both.
like a combination of the both is what does it. And that's sort of like what I mentioned before, is that like what was once like probably a necessity, because I mean, we don't know much about like his mom's boyfriend or whatever happened, but we found out that she let it happen, but he abused him probably pretty brutally, both physically and psychologically. They said they found him chained to a radiator, right? Like when they found him with whatever happened. And so he probably was like told like if he would like cry or do anything, they'd be like, shut up. And like maybe his mom would come like up and like console him, like just like be happy, like, and he'll be good to you, or like something like that. And so just like what was once a necessity, like I mentioned before, to be happy has just bled into his entire lifestyle.
Yeah.
At times of extreme emotional both stress, both sadness, everything like that. Laugh. It's the only thing you can do.
Going back to your original question where you were saying what's real, what's not, I think that there are some things that are real and then there are some things that aren't. Like it's flipped back and forth, because in the time where he goes and he steals his mother's file from Arkham and he's running, nobody's chasing him, and then he even has time to like sit in the stairwell and read, like have a nice read, and nobody comes. And I was watching that, I'm like, wouldn't somebody be behind him? But then at the same time you see, you know, Batman's parents get shot towards the end of the movie, so it's like a kind of a mix that maybe that wouldn't necessarily be going on in his head because it didn't affect him, whereas the other one, when he's learning about his mother, could have been.
That's what I think. I think it comes down to certain parts of the story are true, and I'm wondering if it has something to do with the light you were talking about. Like maybe those moments when the light shines on him and he's the most happy are the moments where he's inside of his own head seeing things the way he wants to see them, versus the dark realism being the parts that... And this is going to take a repeat viewing for me. I've only seen this movie one time, so I haven't been able to watch this knowing how much, you know, what's there.
You played Borderlands last night, Vince?
I did play Borderlands last night.
Sorry, we talked about it. Vince was going to see it a second time. We'll play Borderlands last night.
Borderlands.
Well, and sorry, with this one too, I think about that comedy club scene, right, where he's doing his stand-up and he suddenly goes into this vision of where he does so good at it, and people are laughing with him, and they're laughing at his joke and stuff like that. And then later, you see, what's his name? Murray posts a more awkward, uncomfortable, like...
You see the real version.
You see the real thing that actually happened, and you're like, wait, what? And you're like confused. Like everyone's laughing and enjoying with him, and then you see that he was alone. He actually was never with this girl. He never, had that relationship, because he sneaks into her apartment and is just sitting there on the couch, and she comes out like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like... It's all like a big hallucination, and that threw me. And my wife
freaked out.
My wife literally was like, "I knew it," and I was like, "I did not see that
clue.
coming."
Me neither. I didn't see it coming.
It's just crazy, like what is reality, right? And what is what is reality and what's perceived reality? Because he talks about that a little bit on Murray's Couch when he's on his show, but for us, we have to figure out the true bits of the story,
and we can interpret it the way that we want to.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if we could possibly talk about that final scene, the scene on the Murray Bauman show, just because I felt like the final like 20 minutes of the movie for me, especially like the part in the Murray Bauman show, was where they pushed everything home that they were trying to get across in the movie.
Yeah, go.
Because like, so that part obviously, like whether we know if it's like real or not, especially because it's like him like getting onto the show for having like ridiculously bad comedy. Like, do we know if it's real or not? Like, we don't. But then we talk about it, and it all comes out on the show because he's there and he meets Murray. And even though he had this like sort of thing planned out, that we were just everyone was so intense when you were watching it, because as he walks to the place and he's running from the cops, you've got the rock song playing that I just loved, like as he's going down the stairs and he's dancing.
Hey,
exactly. Gosh, I love that part. And so it was really good. But then he gets there finally after evading the cops. He gets to the show, and when it all comes out about who he is and what he's done, we really get into the nitty gritty, and they talk about why it is. Murray asks him, "You feel no remorse for this? Like that sort of thing is not funny." And so it just sort of all comes down in this moment. I mean, like, I just want to know also what your guys' thoughts about the climax of the movie, because I was on the edge of my seat for that entire last part, from when he killed the guy in the apartment to going down the street, because we thought that was going to end differently, right? When he's telling the knock-knock joke, we all thought it was going to go a different way. And so I was just on edge the entire time.
I really liked how he was even like, what are you making a statement here? You're dressed like that. You're wearing the clown makeup. Are you making a political statement? And he's like, Murray, do I look like a guy who like knows like politics? He's like, I'm not doing anything. I'm just doing, you
It's
know?
just my act. I want to make people smile.
That scene is so incredibly
Tense.
yeah. I'm like, I bit my lip through the whole thing. Like when I stretched out, I was like, yeah, I bit my lip in that thing because I didn't know what was happening. Right? He's in there. He's in the green room, just waiting, and he's just coming up with these knock jokes, coming up with a plan of what he's gonna do. He's carrying. You know, he's ready to make us. I know he says he's not ready to make a statement, but he's ready to make a statement, whether it's killing himself or what he's gonna do. Right? And then he ends up just getting up there, sitting on the chair. He kisses the lady. Also, I want to bring up this. He kisses the lady when he walks in. What an entrance! And that was pretty funny, but it was also uncomfortable.
Fun fact, some people think that was a callback to Heath Ledger with that one interview that he did with that lady at the showing of The Dark Knight, where like that tech lady like showed up and didn't know it was him and then saw him and like freaked out, and then he kissed her and she passed out. I don't know if you guys have
I know what
seen
you're
that.
talking about.
I've seen
But
that,
people
yeah.
thought it was a callback to that. It's not like confirmed, but sorry. Anyways,
No, that was just crazy. It was just like so tense, and then he just starts spewing out his actual raw feelings. Like, this is the way it is. You're a bad man, you know. And he just continues on, and he just like vents, and then shoots him. And the color in that room, like the way the stage is set up, everything was perfect. It was gross and gritty, but perfectly shot because of the way the room was set up. It was fantastic.
Yeah. I kind of want to get into a bit of this later, but it kind of reminded me a lot of Heath Ledger's Batman, because he talks about like, do I look political? Like, I'm not an agent of chaos. Like, do I look like a guy with a plan? So I guess like that's the question that I kind of want to throw out there is, do you think that his plan was to kill Murray from the beginning, or do you think he went in there planning to kill himself? Like, I think it's just all kind of up in the air.
yeah, I think it's definitely the second one, because we see multiple times, both when he's on home in his couch and when he's in the green room. So he pulls the gun up to his own head and he's ready to kill himself. Because I just think he wants to make a statement. Because even while he's on the stage, he says, I hope, he looks at his journal, I hope my death makes more sense than my life. And so he's just wanting to do something to inspire some sort of, I don't know if he's trying to inspire change because he sort of just like found who he is. He just wants people to get what they deserve sort of for like their actions. And so for him, he talks about how Murray's been like this idol his whole life. And then when he sort of realized that he was just invited on the show as a joke, because people thought that he was the worst, like he mentions it, and that's the one shot we talked about earlier where it's looking at him from the side and he's sad. That's where he's just like, you're awful, Murray. Like, you just did this to be a joke and you do things like that. And so that's why you're bad. And so I think that that's just sort of what sets him off, because then Murray, who's been like, I don't want to say like a dad, but he's been an icon for him because him and his mom just grow up watching the Murray Show like every single night together in bed. This guy that he's just loved, you know, one day made fun of him on TV and then invited him so that they could, like, in a discreet way, just like make fun of him, just like did all the things. And so I think it sets him off. And then for me, like the part of this scene that's the most influential is obviously like right before he shoots him, because the line coming up to right before he shoots him, it's not even just that the line is so meaningful. It's that it's almost hard for us to hear it because Murray is talking over him. And so it's sort of like representative of a lot of what happens in society is like a lot of people sometimes maybe trying to get this message out, but it's trying to get covered up at the same time. The line that he says is, he's like, what do you get when you cross like a psychopath loner with a society that like ignores him and treats him like trash? You get what you deserve.
And I think that explains it. I think I've said this before, but this is a Joker who just reacts. He's not a Joker that schemes. He's not a Joker that has plans. He just reacts to whatever comes next. And I think that his intention was to go on, like you said, the intention was to go on to kill himself in hopes that it would do something. I don't think he knew what. But then once he got there and he started being treated the way he's being treated by the person that he's looked up to the most, he reacted in a different way than he expected and killed the person. And then he reacts again and he reacts again. I don't think that this Joker has any plan at all, nor do I really think he has the capability to plan this out.
I think it just
and that's what makes him so scary. Like, you can't see what he's going to do next. You can't
is that it's true chaos.
Yeah.
It's just really like you don't know, because even when like after it happens and everyone starts freaking out, he goes up to the camera and he's like, wait, no, and he's like, wait, yeah, I'm gonna. He's like, and remember, like that's like, what does he say?
That's life. 'Cause that
That's
was
life.
Murray's
He's about to say
thing.
that's life, and then they cut it.
Cut him off.
Yeah, but yeah, so that part was just like I got the chills because the message was so strong and clear. But I was like, because I thought about that at first after, I'm like, why didn't they just have him like say it? Because that's like kind of the whole point. They're trying to hammer home the entire movie. That's like the climax when he shoots him and when he says that line. Like, why have someone talking over him? Very representative society.
There's a quote from Joaquin Phoenix himself. He says, I wouldn't have thought about this as my dream role, but now, honestly, I can't stop thinking about it. I talked to Todd a lot about what else we might be able to do, in general, just to work together, but also specifically if there's something else we can do with the Joker that might be interesting. With the open ability to interpret this story and what actually happened, the way they kind of how they set that up so you could do that, and with the interest in a Joker 2, and now they have the money and proof that they can make money off of this behind it, what would you guys like to see in a sequel to the Joker?
I might have an unpopular opinion in this where I say that I wouldn't like to see it, because it's sort of one of those things where you can enjoy like the vagueness and like the be able to the choose your own adventure for it through it, and maybe one time watch it thinking this thing, maybe one time watch it thinking of another thing. Where of course I would love to see more Joaquin Phoenix and everything like that in the Joker. I think me personally, I wouldn't mind if it happened, but I think I would enjoy just this without a second film. Just me.
I don't necessarily think a sequel is necessary either, especially because I feel like where they would want to go with this is introducing Batman, because they kind of reference to him quite a bit in this movie, so they would want to, have Batman be in there too and have them starting to fight. And because, and again, this is just my opinion, but Robert Pattinson is the next Batman, I don't know how I feel about that yet. And so such a great Joker against Edward from Twilight, I don't know if I would like that very much.
Well, and I think like it's highly debatable what could happen, right? They could go into introducing Batman. They could also go into the years of Joker working the underground and working the under society and the underbelly, because he's going to be in the hospital for an extended period of time, and he's going to get back out because society has a way of just seemingly releasing criminals back on the street, or people who have, and I hate to declaring people criminally insane and stuff like this, they just let him go. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what's going to happen here, is they're going to let him go.
What if there was a superhero movie that was like as artsy as this one? That was like the superhero movie. Because you think about it, Robert Pattinson, like as much as he's like Edward from Twilight and everything like that, like we got to give people their chances. Like I said, I don't know how I feel about it either, but like I think that he could do a really good job. Like especially, I mean, The Lighthouse is coming out here pretty soon, and that looks like a stellar movie, and I think that he's going to be great in it. So what if like, and maybe it goes against like the superhero genre and everything we talk about it. What if there was a superhero movie that was like just as good and well thought out as this, that included Batman with the Joker, Robert Pattinson, and Joaquin Phoenix, an older Joaquin Phoenix?
So this is really hard to say that this is a superhero movie, right? Because of how real it is. And I honestly think that if the Batman is introduced into this world that they've established, it wouldn't work. Just the Batman is too, superheroes are a little over the top. And this is just a grounded, realistic version of a real life situation that happened to be a guy who painted his face, right? So if I see what you guys are saying, I do not want this tied into an extended universe. But I would really like to have a sequel to The Joker, where, like you said, if maybe they can allude to things happening around Batman. Like I was listening to a podcast and he said maybe like, oh, Batman disappears, Bruce Wayne, 10 years later, Bruce Wayne, son of Thomas, Martha Wayne, vanishes. And it's just kind of a new story in the background of this new Joker story. And maybe explore the Joker becoming more confident in the makeup, becoming more of that criminally insane person, kind of learning to scheme a little more, learning to use this mob that he's inspired in order to get what he wants, or kind of become more of the Joker. Because really this movie, we don't see him as the Joker until the last 20 minutes of the movie, 30 minutes of the movie. So the next one I would, and this is my one nitpick about this about Joker is the ending. I was led to believe in the trailer, which I think is one of my favorite trailers I've ever seen, that this movie would culminate with the Joker's scheme, the Joker's plan finishing where he inspires this mob and takes over the city. And it's not that. And I was a little disappointed when it didn't happen. Happy it didn't happen because this is a way more interesting version what we've got. But a little bit disappointed because I wanted that. I had this idea of what this Joker would become, you know. I thought he was going to put on the makeup, go from this timid, weak man to this overly confident supervillain. And I would like to see that explored more. I would like to see Joaquin Phoenix come back in this and see him take this character that has finally found himself and push it to the edge. But I don't think I want a Batman in it yet.
No, I don't think a Batman is a way to go yet. I think that it wouldn't mesh well because this is like, it would have to go way against what we've been built up to believe the superhero films have to be. But also, we need more of a development within the Joker because there's no way he's going to go from this character to what we saw in the Nolan trilogy without hiccups in between. And if, for instance, he's not that Joker, well, what happened to this guy? Or who did he take on as a prodigy or a Padawan, right, to become the Joker? But yeah, I'm just curious, really, who he's taken on and what happens. Like,
yeah, I agree.
How does he build his little like mob?
Yeah, I want to see him become that supervillain. I want to see him be able to go toe to toe with the Batman, and this version of Joker wouldn't be able to go toe to toe with the Batman.
No.
So.
I have a little thing just about the evolution of the Jokers and how it kind of leads into the Joaquin Phoenix one. So there are 4, possibly 5 different personality traits that they've kind of had. First starting off, and then I guess I'll relate it to the characters or the actors that portrayed them. So at first there's kind of a trickster persona, and this is just when he's kind of just, you know, he does pranks, kind of compared to Loki from the Marvel series, where it kind of borderlines pranks and violence. And this was portrayed by Cesar Romero in the super early ones in the 1950s. Then it goes to the Madman, and this was kind of in the 1970s with Mark Hamill in the animated Batman series, and how this is when he starts to become a criminal and starts to really do evil things, and when he starts to go to Arkham and all that kind of stuff. Next is the Philosopher, and this is where the Killing Joke is referenced, where he's saying, you know, only everybody is the Joker. They're just one bad day away. Talking about, you know, how his origin story is multiple choice, and this is kind of highlighted by Jack Nicholson within the Tim Burton Batman, just how he is a smart guy and he just kind of has different takes on life. Then going into the terrorist Joker, this is obviously Heath Ledger, where he is just in love with anarchy, and he doesn't do it. It's not about the money, it's about sending a message, and how, you know, they're all just different personas, but they all are unique to themselves. And then going into this one with Joaquin Phoenix is he vindictive? Because like you were saying a little bit earlier, a lot of his actions are just kind of, he just reacts to what's going on. And so he kills his mother because he's upset about his childhood. And then he kills the big guy that was the clown just because he's upset with how he treated him. And then Murray, same type of thing, all in the spot. So just the mental persona is just, he's kind of vindictive, and he thinks about his own little choice of nihilism, I guess I should say, of like what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah. Huh?
So yeah, so that was my little bit that I wanted to say.
I haven't really thought much about like the variations of Jokers, because really when I think of the Joker, right, and I love Batman as a kid, but I remember watching the Tim Burton stuff, right? Didn't really think about it, but you know, Heath Ledger and now this is the Joker that I really think about. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's an interesting way to kind of compare them and kind of say, this is the evolution of the character, and this is the character who we finally know, this variation or version of the character, which has a little bit of that vindictive streak, which I think is fairly common with the way we act today in some ways.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
So yeah, I just want to throw that out there. Thanks for that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Cade, for also coming on the podcast. Super great, and we're super happy to have you, and I'm sure we'll have you back again.
Thank you. I appreciate it, guys.
Cade Egbert, everyone. Clap, clap, clap. Anyways, yeah, thanks so much, guys, for tuning in to this.
Yeah, it was a good studio
audience.
It was really fun.
I'll just put some applause like it. Cade Egbert, everyone. No, well, thank you guys. No, really, it's been fun to talk about the Joker. I think this is one that so many folks have been waiting for it to come out because everyone's wanted to know what is next for the Joker, especially because we had such an iconic, player in Heath Ledger in the last, iteration of him. Sometimes I skip over Jared Leto's Joker. Sorry, Jared. But reality is that these two Jokers are the ones that are defining a generation. And so thank you again for tuning into our current podcast. Check us out, kind of what's going on the Instagram and our Twitter accounts, Pause Rewind Play Podcast and Pause Rewind Play Pla. Pause Rewind Pla. I don't remember. Blah. But yeah, it's fantastic. I've actually kind of got the website up and going. If you type in pauserewindplaypodcast.com, which is incredibly long, it'll guide you to our website. It's not quite built yet, but I'm going to throw up show notes from here after I edit out the podcast to see if you have ideas or thoughts you can kind of follow along. Anything else before we close out, folks?
No.
All right. Anything, Vince?
No, that's fun. Bye.
Bye.